The sun rises over Fairhaven like a golden promise, stretching light across my acres of land. The morning mist clings to the trees, and I breathe in the crisp air, the scent of pine and damp earth grounding me. My name is Marcus Reed, and for the past 5 years, I've called this place home. 30 acres of rolling hills, a winding creek that cuts through the property, and a small, but sturdy, cabin I built with my own hands. It's peace. It's freedom. That creek? It's been in my family for generations, running from the main river through my property before trickling into a neighboring pond. As a kid, I fished here with my granddad. As a man, I sit on its banks to clear my mind. It's a sacred thing, something no one has ever dared to touch. Until now. At first, it was just a pile of branches. Strange. I thought maybe it was a beaver dam, but the placement was too deliberate, too unnatural. A few days later, I noticed rocks and sandbags stacked higher than before. Then, one morning, the water slowed to a mere trickle. Something was blocking the flow upstream. A bad feeling slithers through my gut. I glance up the hill toward the Fairhaven HOA community, a collection of oversized houses with pristine driveways and perfect lawns. A neighborhood built for people who like rules, order, and a certain type of exclusivity. I'd never had an issue with them before. Sure, they looked at me sideways at the farmer's market, and I caught whispers when I strolled into town. But no one ever crossed that unspoken boundary. I pushed the unease aside. Maybe it's just an accident. But deep down, I know. This is deliberate. And something tells me it's only the beginning. The next morning, I walked to the creek with a shovel, expecting to clear whatever's causing the blockage. But when I get there, my stomach tightens. It's worse. The water has nearly stopped moving, reduced to a stagnant pool on my side. More rocks, more sandbags. This isn't just nature at work. Someone built a damn wall. My hands curl into fists. Who the hell would do this? I follow the creek upstream, stepping over fallen branches and damp earth, moving toward the Fairhaven neighborhood. The farther I go, the worse it gets. The water is completely cut off. And then I see it. A brand new concrete barrier, stretching across the narrowest part of the creek, diverting the water entirely. A red and white sign is posted nearby. Private property, no trespassing. A heavy silence settles in my chest. Someone built this. On my land. Without my permission. Anger simmers beneath my skin. I storm up the hill toward Fairhaven, my boots crunching against the gravel road. The sun glares off the luxury SUVs in their driveways, their chrome accents blinding. This place always felt off. Too perfect. Too polished. Like a world that wasn't meant for me. I stop in front of the largest house. 2 stories, stone facade, the kind of place that screams old money. I've seen the owner before. Martha Ellington, HOA president. Wears pearl necklaces even at the grocery store. The kind of woman who clutches her purse a little tighter when I walk past. The front door swings open before I can knock. Martha steps out, dressed in a crisp white blouse, her manicured fingers wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. She looks me up and down, her lips pressing into a thin line. I force a calm tone. You know anything about the concrete wall blocking my creek? Her expression doesn't change. Oh, that. She lets out a sigh, as if I'm inconveniencing her. Yes, the HOA approved it last month. I blink. Approved what? We had to take action, Mr. Reed. Your creek was devaluing properties. I stare at her. My creek. She takes a slow sip of coffee. It was causing aesthetic concerns. And, well, there were other concerns. That tone. That coded language. I've heard it before. You mean me. My voice is flat. Her smile is all teeth. Now. Don't be dramatic. The neighborhood has standards, and standing water breeds mosquitoes. This is simply best for the community. Her community, not mine. I inhale deeply, my pulse hammering. That's my land. You had no right. She raises a brow. Oh, but I do. The HOA has influence, Mr. Reed. You'll find fighting it difficult. A cold certainty settles in my gut. This isn't an accident. It's a message. And I am not going to let it stand. I don't sleep that night. Martha's smug smile burns in my mind, her words slithering through my thoughts like a warning. The HOA has influence, Mr. Reed. You'll find fighting it difficult. I don't scare easy, but I know what I'm up against. The next morning, I head straight to the county office, documents in hand. My grandfather left me this land legally. The creek has run through it for generations. There's no way in hell an HOA has the right to block it. The clerk, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, scans my property deed. He frowns. This doesn't make sense. I lean in. What? He turns the screen toward me, his face tight. According to this, the HOA filed an environmental adjustment 3 months ago, citing flood risks. The county approved it. Flood risks. I scoff. That creek's never flooded in its life. He shrugs. The paperwork says otherwise. I shake my head, anger bubbling beneath my skin. Who approved it? He hesitates before saying, County Supervisor Daniels. I clench my jaw. Daniels is a Fairhaven resident, a close friend of Martha's. Of course. The game is rigged. I step outside, gripping my phone, and call an old friend, Andre, a lawyer who grew up with me on the other side of town. When I tell him what's going on, he lets out a low whistle. Sounds like HOA fraud, he says. You got evidence? Working on it. Well, get something solid. And Marcus? Yeah. Watch your back. The HOA strikes back. That afternoon, I walk to the creek, snapping pictures of the barricade. I record video, explaining how the water's been deliberately cut off. I send it all to Andre. Then I notice something new. A black SUV parked near the barrier. 2 men in polo shirts standing beside it, arms crossed. HOA enforcers. I march toward them. You boys lost. The taller one smirks. Just keeping an eye on the property. My property. He shrugs. The HOA has vested interest in maintaining community standards. I step closer. Let me guess. Martha sent you. No answer. But the smirk tells me everything. I inhale sharply, my muscles tight. They're watching me, intimidating me, trying to make me back down. I smile. Tell Martha I said hi. Then I turn and walk away. I have work to do, rallying the allies. That evening, I drive into town, stopping at the general store. The moment I step inside, eyes turn toward me. Not in the usual you don't belong here way. No, this time it's different. An older black man named Henry, one of the few folks in town who's always treated me with respect, waves me over. Marcus. Heard about the creek. News travels fast. I nod. They're trying to choke me out. Henry leans in. You ain't the first. My stomach drops. What do you mean? He glances around before lowering his voice. Couple years back, they pushed out the Sanchez family. HOA claimed their house didn't meet standards. Hit M with fines, legal fees. Forced M to sell. My jaw tightens. And nobody fought back? They tried. His eyes darken. But the HOA's got deep pockets. And friends in the county office. I exhale, the weight of the situation sinking in. This isn't just about my creek. This is about power, about control. And it's been happening for years. I straighten. Not this time. Henry nods. Let me know how I can help. The tipping point. The next morning, I post my video online. The story spreads fast. Blocked creeks, shady HOA dealings, racial discrimination in Fairhaven. People start talking. Then the calls begin. First, a local news station. Then, an environmental group. And finally, Marcus. Andre's voice crackles over the phone. I found something. I grip the phone. Tell me. He exhales. That creek? It's legally protected. The HOA broke state law blocking it. My blood runs hot. I glance at Fairhaven, its pristine houses standing like monuments to greed. Martha thinks she's won. She has no idea what's coming. It's time. I don't bother with another meeting. No more phone calls. No more polite conversations. I'm past that. This morning, I take a slow drive up to Fairhaven, my truck rumbling like a storm approaching. The HOA is holding a meeting at the community center, an event for residents only. But I'm done respecting boundaries that they never respected in the first place. I park right in front of the building, step out, and walk straight through the double doors. The room goes silent. Martha is standing at the podium, flanked by board members in pastel-colored suits. Her eyes narrow as she spots me. "Mr. Reed," she says smoothly, her voice carrying an edge of condescension. "This meeting is for Fairhaven residents." I cross my arms. "And yet you seem real comfortable making decisions about my property." Murmurs ripple through the room. Martha sighs, feigning exhaustion. "If this is about that creek again." "You mean the protected creek?" I cut in. The murmurs grow louder. A couple of homeowners glance at each other, shifting in their seats. Martha's expression flickers, just for a second. Then she recovers, smiling like I'm an unruly child throwing a tantrum. "Mr. Reed," she says, shaking her head. "I understand your frustration, but we acted within our rights." The HOA had full approval from the county to make necessary environmental adjustments. I let the silence stretch. Then I pull my phone from my pocket. I press play. The HOA broke state law blocking it. Andre's voice fills the room, clear and sharp. "The creek is legally protected under waterway conservation laws. Blocking it was not just unethical, it was illegal." Gasps. Someone whispers, "Oh my God." Martha's face drains of color. I'm not done. I turn the phone screen toward the crowd, playing the video I recorded at the creek. The footage shows the barricade, the stagnant water, the HOA enforcers watching me like I was the trespasser on my own land. "This," I say, my voice steady, "is what they did." Martha recovers quickly, plastering on a tight-lipped smile. "Mr. Reed, this is misleading." "The HOA." I hold up my hand. I'm not finished. Then I pull out the final piece. A printed email, courtesy of a whistleblower inside the county office. I read aloud. "Martha, the permit request was rejected due to conservation laws. I understand your concerns about the neighborhood's image, but we cannot approve an obstruction of the waterway. Let me know if you'd like to discuss alternative methods." I pause. Then I pull out the second email, sent 3 days later. "Supervisor Daniels, the Fairhaven HOA is prepared to make a generous campaign contribution if this matter is expedited. We trust you'll reconsider your stance on this issue." The room erupts. People are on their feet. Residents who once whispered in agreement with Martha now murmur in shock. Martha's face is frozen, her carefully maintained poise slipping. I step closer, lowering my voice, so only she can hear. "You bribed a county official to break the law. And now everyone knows." Her hands tremble at her sides. You don't understand." "No," I say, my voice steel. "I understand perfectly." I turn toward the crowd. "You all do too, don't you?" They do. Martha isn't the queen of Fairhaven anymore. She's prey, surrounded by a pack that just realized they've been led by a fraud. And the worst part? I'm not even done yet. Martha is unraveling. Her hands shake as she snatches the emails from my grip, her face twisting with fury. She schemes the words, then forces a laugh. High, brittle, unnatural. "This is absurd," she snaps, her voice shaking just enough to betray her panic. "You think some out-of-context emails prove anything? Mr. Reed, I understand that people like you." The room collectively tenses. My jaw tightens. "People like me?" She catches herself, but it's too late. Martha's mask is slipping, and the room knows it. Someone near the back mutters, "Did she really just say that?" Another voice, "I knew she was bad, but bribing county officials?" Martha turns sharply, scanning the crowd, her practiced composure breaking piece by piece. "Oh, please. This is just an attempt to smear my name. The HOA acted in the best interest of Fairhaven. By breaking state law." I cut in. Before she can stammer out a reply, the doors swing open. And in walks Superintendent Avery, the county's environmental enforcement officer. Martha stiffens, color draining from her face. Avery is a broad-shouldered black woman in her 50s, The kind of person who carries authority like a second skin. She glances at me, then at the stunned crowd. "I got a call from an attorney this morning," she says, voice sharp as a blade. Seems the Fairhaven HOA thought they could illegally divert a protected waterway. Martha stumbles forward. "Superintendent Avery, I can explain." Avery holds up a hand, shutting her down. "Don't bother. We pulled the permits. Or rather, the lack of permits. Turns out, your flood risk excuse was nothing but a smokescreen." The room erupts into whispers. Avery continues, her eyes locked on Martha. "We also pulled financial records. Your environmental adjustments were paid for with unapproved HOA funds." Meaning, she turns toward the residents. "Your HOA dues were stolen to cover an illegal project." Gasps. Shouts. A woman in the front row clutches her pearls. "Hold on, so our money went to this. I didn't agree to this." Martha's breathing turns shallow. She glances around the room, searching for an ally. But there are none left. Then, boom. The front doors slam open again. This time, it's the media. Local reporters, cameras rolling, microphones in hand. "Mrs. Ellington, is it true you bribed county officials to push this project through? Is the HOA going to be sued? Residents are demanding refunds. Will you resign?" Martha stares, frozen, like a deer in headlights. Then, she does the unthinkable. She runs. The collapse of Martha Ellington. She bolts for the back door, heels clicking against the hardwood, pushing past board members, desperate for an escape. But Avery is faster. The superintendent sidesteps, blocking her path. "Mrs. Ellington, I'd strongly advise you stay put." Martha spins around, chest rising and falling in panicked gasps. "This is harassment. I'll sue." Avery smirks. "Good luck. I'm sure the Attorney General will love hearing your side." Martha's breath hitches. "The, Attorney General?" Avery folds her arms. "Oh, didn't I mention? This case is being escalated. Illegal obstruction of a protected waterway carries some serious fines. Possibly criminal charges." The room erupts again. I watch as realization dawns in Martha's eyes. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. This is the end. Her reign is over. She staggers back, shaking her head. "No. No, no, no. This can't." Then, as if on cue, a phone rings. One of the board members hesitantly answers, their face turning pale as they listen. Then they look up. The county just froze the HOA's accounts. Gasps. Homeowners immediately turn on Martha. "You used our money to pull this stunt? I want my dues back. We should have voted you out years ago." Martha opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. She looks around frantically, searching for anyone, to take her side. But Fairhaven has already moved on. She's nothing now. I turn to Avery. "So, when do I get my creek back?" She chuckles. "We'll start removing the barricade first thing tomorrow." Martha lets out a broken, desperate sound. I don't even look at her. I just smile. The next morning, I wake up to the sound of rushing water. I step outside and walk toward the creek, heart pounding in my chest. The barricade is gone. Chunks of concrete and metal fencing lay discarded to the side, county workers clearing out the last remnants of Martha's failed empire. The water flows freely again, bubbling over rocks, winding its way through the land like it always has. Like it was meant to. I stand at the edge, inhaling the fresh, damp air. For the first time in months, I feel at peace. The fall of Martha Ellington. Martha, of course, doesn't go down quietly. The HOA board scrambles to save itself, but the damage is too big. Lawsuits pile up. Residents demand audits. The state's environmental agency slaps Fairhaven with heavy fines for illegal obstruction of a protected waterway. And Martha? She resigns in disgrace. Her once loyal followers vanish overnight, treating her like a stain they'd rather forget. The same people who whispered behind closed doors about how she always knew best now shake their heads, pretending they never agreed with her methods. And then, the final blow. A countywide investigation into bribery and HOA fraud. Turns out, Fairhaven wasn't the first community she pulled this stunt in. She's looking at serious legal trouble now, possibly even jail time. I should feel sorry for her. I don't. Fairhaven reckons with the truth. 2 weeks later, I get an unexpected visitor. An older white man stands on my front porch, hat in hand. Mr. Dawson. A long-time Fairhaven resident. The kind of man who never had a bad word to say to me but never had a good one either. I owe you an apology, he says, voice low. I let Martha run things because it was easier that way. I cross my arms, waiting. I didn't agree with everything she did, he continues. But I didn't stop her either. He exhales, rubbing a hand over his face. And that makes me complicit. I study him for a moment. He's not looking for forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. I nod.
Yeah.
It does. His shoulders slump, but he nods back. I'll do better.
It's a small thing.
But it matters. The creek belongs to everyone again. The next weekend, something amazing happens. A group of kids from Fairhaven show up at the creek, fishing poles in hand. One of them, a little girl with bright red braids, grins at me. Mom said we can fish here now. I blink.
Yeah.
You can. I watch as they settle in by the water, laughing and skipping stones. Their parents stand a few feet back, hesitant but hopeful. I see Henry across the way, arms crossed, a knowing smile on his face. We did this. We took something back. And no one, no HOA, no entitled power-hungry people, no system rigged against us, is ever taking it away again. I smile, stepping into the water. The cool rush flows over my feet, steady and strong.
Just like me.
Just like us.